Hi friends, welcome back to How the Light Gets In and welcome to my backyard. I apologize in advance if the video and audio quality is not like the best. As you know, we don't normally film in my backyard with a cell phone and my AirPods, but here we are. So as you may or may not know, we tend to batch film my videos because scheduling wise it's easier to get together and make 2 or 3 once a month rather than trying to get together every other week. So the video that was slated to go out today was fine. I mean, it was a reaction video to a documentary about the opioid epidemic and drug treatment in Florida, and that'll get posted at some point, I'm sure, but it's not the most important thing that we need to talk about right now. I had recorded that video like about 3 weeks ago, and at the time it was like a perfectly normal thing to be talking about, and then the fucking world caught fire, and it is no longer an appropriate thing for us to be talking about. So instead I'm just going to keep this as brief as I can, so that we can talk about the nature of the world right now. I'm not sure what else to call it. Let me explain myself first. So I was raised in a predominantly white farming and suburban community in Northeast Kansas, and then I entered a profession that is predominantly white and live in a neighborhood that is predominantly white, and have accidentally, I say accidentally because it's not like I was trying to do it, but maybe that's not the right word. But I've wound up unintentionally isolating myself without really thinking about what that was gonna mean and what that was gonna look like. You may or may not know this. It's not something that I think gets talked about very often, but predominantly white people tend to come to therapy. So not only are most of my coworkers and colleagues white, but most of my clients are white, which means I spent a lot of the last week listening to my clients say tone deaf and insensitive and racist things and being unable to correct them or respond, because the nature of therapy is that I have to respect your values and your morals and your ideals, and unless it serves you, the client, for me to challenge those, I don't. And that left me feeling really awful and emotionally exhausted and like part of the problem, which is not a feeling that anyone really wants to feel. And I think that's part of the reason why I made this video in the first place, is just because I had to be silent so much in the last week. I don't want to be silent anymore, and at the same time, it is not my turn to talk. So instead of me doing a whole thing about the nature of the Black experience in America, which I very obviously know nothing about, what I've done instead is I have linked some resources below, and I'm going to talk about some resources today. First of all, there is an article below, 22 places that you can donate right now. Donate to the National Bail Fund, donate to Black Lives Matter, donate to the George Floyd Memorial Fund, excuse me, donate to the ACLU. Whatever you can give, because we've got a lot of shit we need to sort out right now, and our money makes that possible. Number 2, below you will also see a series of videos. The first one is a Vox video. It is about the massacre of Black Wall Street in Tulsa. If that is not a story that you are familiar with, I highly recommend that you watch not only that Vox video, but really dig into that story. Because basically what happened is that there was a predominantly Black neighborhood in Tulsa that was doing well, and was basically burned to the ground by white supremacists, because this is America. So that's a good one to be aware of. Good one's not quite the right term because it's not a good time, but whatever. You'll also find a video by Dr. Wesh, who was my anthropology professor when I was in college. Dr. Wesh is the first individual to ever talk to me about systemic and structural racism. It's not something I had ever heard of until I took his class. And so this video that he put together is about the truth line in Kansas City, which separates the Country Club Plaza, which is a highly affluent, wealthy white area, from a impoverished black community. And he talks about the history of systemic racism in my state. There is also an explanation about white privilege that is useful if you don't know what that is, or if you just want more talking points when you are arguing with your conservative family members. And then there is a short video called Black People Respond to All Lives Matter, which I thought was very nice. And then I've also linked to the Creators of Color series on YouTube, which is a really interesting look at a lot of different black creators, and I really enjoyed it. I think you might too. The other thing I'm going to encourage you to do is read, because books are fun. Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome by Dr. Joy DeGray is an excellent book. I've kind of hinted around this in the past, and we'll probably talk about it in depth at some point, but there's a lot of evidence that suggests that trauma is intergenerational and can be passed down in our DNA and our genetic code. And that is something that we need to be aware of when we think about the black experience in this country, because they have several hundred years of oppression that they are all still trying to deal with, whether they live through it or not. Another really good one is White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. I really liked this book. It really forced me to take a look at myself and some of the things that go on in my own head, and examine some biases and prejudices that I didn't really know that I had. And then fiction-wise, this is one of my most favorite books of all time, Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. Oprah turned it into a really terrible movie that I don't recommend that you watch. But Their Eyes Were Watching God gives you kind of a sense of black folklore, and it's just a really beautiful story. There's also Beloved by Toni Morrison. As you can see, she won a prize for it, and she deserved it because it is an incredible novel. It's a difficult read, and it's a very emotional read, but it's a really good book. And then the most recent thing I read was The Hate You Give, which I thought was incredibly well written, incredible characters. It's an incredible book. So if you haven't read that, pick it up. And I think there's a movie based on that you can also watch. I haven't seen it yet. And then on top of that, just try and watch more movies and TV shows by black creators. Dig into what is available to you culturally. Because I'm gonna be honest, when I was digging all these books out of my collection, I got real mad at myself for how many of the books I own were written by white people. So some things that I've watched lately that I really enjoyed are Atlanta, Get Out, because I love Jordan Peele. I think he's a brilliant film creator. Key and Peele is an excellent show. Or Sorry to Bother You is another really good movie that you can watch. So I'm gonna shut up now, and it might be a few weeks before I drop another video, because it just the world does not need my white ass talking about anything right now. So I'm gonna take some quiet time to both educate myself on some of these things and to help myself cope with the pervasive existential dread I've been feeling lately, because it seems like my country is on fire, and like I'm stoked about it because like burn this mother down, it's a bad system, but also it's stressful, and I'm gonna probably have to listen to some more racist bullshit at work this week. So yeah, I guess I have nothing else to say. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope that you are safe. Please do whatever you can to take care of yourself right now, because it's not a great time. I'll see you next time.